So hi guys, and welcome back to a new World of Tanks video. Today I'm going to review the M6 heavy tank for you, as I have fairly recently unlocked it. I've had a good few games to be able to form an opinion upon this tank, and I am going to basically sum up this review for you right now in one word. Shit. That's the one word I would use to describe this tank. It's just... I mean, without that 90mm gun, which you have to actually grind out 14,000 experience while using one of these 76mm guns, after you unlock the 90mm, it gets bearable. I mean, the gun is good. You'll see that in the clips that I've got for you towards the end. The gun is the shining feature of this tank. The rest of it, though, is just a disaster. I mean, to start with, if we go back to the T1 Heavy, just go on to this. If we go into the survivability, 95 hull armour at the front, 52mm at the side, 46 at the rear. And turret armour 101 at the front, 82 at the sides, 82 at the rear. Now that's not bad for tier 5. However, if we go back to the M6, 102mm front armour, 44 sides, 41 rear for the hull, and 102 turret armour front, 83 sides and 83 rear. That's not a significant change going up to tier 6, where you will face tier 8s, and I have faced tier 8s, and in terms of armour, I just can't compete. It just, at tier 5, the armour that the T1 Heavy has, it's enough to be useful. You can rely on your armour. You can tank corners. You can tank alleys. You can do that. But in the M6, at the minute, I just don't think that armour is good enough for tier 6. I really don't. And I mean, as you can see from the profile of this tank, it's a big target. It's not like many people are going to have trouble actually hitting you. I mean, it's just a massive, humongous tank that its armour's just not good enough at all. But I'm going to leave the armour now, and you'll see later on one of the clips that in certain situations it is good. If you are facing enemies who have no idea what they're doing, the armour does hold up. However, we are going to start moving to the best thing about this tank, and that is the gun. So if you just draw up the stats here for this 90mm gun, 7.89 rate of fire, 160 average penetration with your standard rounds, 243 average penetration with your premium rounds, and 45mm of penetration with HE, and that then equates to 240 damage for both your standard and premium rounds, and 320 damage for your HE rounds. And from looking at those stats right there, the only thing the premium rounds do for you is increase your penetration. The average damage does not go up at all, which I don't know. I apart from the penetration, I do not see anything special about taking out APCR rounds to battle with you. As you can see from my loadout below, I don't. But I don't pretend to be a good World of Tanks player, and I don't, as you can see here, I don't really have the money to really be throwing money at this game. And from my experience, 160 penetration, it's adequate. I can do damage with 160 penetration, and to be honest, after using not that gun, that's the different one. Well, it's effectively similar, same, but that's a story for another time. Anyway, after using this 76mm M1A1 gun to grind out 14,000 experience for this 90mm gun, I started using this tank in higher tier battles as a flanking tank, and the penetration on this gun trained me to do that, so I'm more than happy using this gun for that situation. But yeah, the gun's not bad. It's definitely the best thing about this tank, and without it, it would be a steaming pile of shit. Anyway, we're going to move over now to compare this M6 to the other tier 6s in the game. Right, so we've now jumped over to tanks.gg, and we are comparing the M6 to the VK3001H, the KV85, the ARL44, and the OI, the main heavy tanks that people are going to play at tier 6. And straight from the off, by looking at the firepower, overall the M6 compared to the other tanks has decent firepower. The 90mm gun, which these stats are all based off of, in fact all of these tanks are based off of their top guns, I should point that out straight away. It competes well, the 90mm and the M6. It competes well with the other heavies. There are certain aspects, such as the average damage, that the M6 just does not compete with, for example, the OI, but the OI is just a stupidly ridiculous overpowered gun that Russian heavies cry about. But if we move on down to the weapons handling itself, across the board, the 90mm gun is superior. I mean, just look at all those reds for the other tanks. It is just far superior in that sense. And it's a reason why I do like it so much. Is just that it may not have the biggest damage and penetration, but its handling is spectacular. Moving down to the movement, it's adequate, as you can see, in terms of forward speed. It's not as fast as the VK, but it's faster than the KV85 only by 1 kilometre an hour, and the 29 kilometres an hour of the OI. So it's a fast tank. It'll get you places. It'll get you to where you need it to go. However, the reverse speed is the slowest, along with the ARL and the OI, which means if you get yourself into a tight corner, it's very difficult to extract yourself from it. So you have to stand and fight. And as I said, the armour, don't rely on it. I don't like relying on it. I just can't trust it at the end of the day. Speaking of the armour, if we move down, as you can see, it's the second worst armour, hull armour I should say, of these 5 tanks. Only the KV85 with 70mm front, 60 sides and rear is lower. Apart from that, all of the others, I suppose the VK is a bit of a funny one. It's only got 2mm less front armour on the hull, but it has better hull armour at the sides and rear at 60, as opposed to the M6's 44mm at the side and 41mm at the rear. So, I mean, in my books, the VK has the better armour. The ARL44 and the OI both have far superior armour to the M6. So this demonstrates just how inadequate the armour really is for tier 6. I mean, as I pointed out at the start, the T1 Heavy, its armour is slightly worse than the M6, but it is good for tier 5. It will protect you there. But then when you move up to tier 6, you only get a slight improvement, and it's just not good enough, especially when you're going to face tier 8s. It's just not gonna protect you. But anyway, that's enough talking about the theory of these tanks. I mean, at the end of the day, those are all numbers. How does it actually compare when it matters? And that's on the battlefield, and we're going to move into the replays right now. So the first replay I've got for you is a tier 6 game on El Haluf. I've decided to start this replay a quarter of the way through, as not really very much goes on at the start of this game. I just spawn in, I suppose, and just journey my way up to this spot, near where the heavy tanks just throw lead at each other. And this replay is to demonstrate, I suppose, the decent mobility of this vehicle along with the gun as well. So we'll play it from here. So at the minute there's 4 of us heavies here, and the shot we're about to fire here is the first shot that we connect of the game. So I start readying up to fight as T-34-85, and the T-150 gets in the way. So yeah, I just have to scrap that. But anyway, so as I said, this replay is going to demonstrate the gun as well as the mobility of the tank, because it's not bad, as we saw in the stats. It does move quite well for a heavy. So we finally got out of that spot. In some games you can get stuck there forever, and we're beginning to start flanking our way around the heavies, and we managed to get a shot into Rudy, which, by the way, I'd just like to point out is one of the best players in the whole game on the enemy team. So that's quite an important shot in the context of the match. So yeah, we've completely surrounded this T-150. I leave that KV-85 to go after that Rudy, and I go to, well, the word I would use for this is play with this T-150, because I just drive up to the side of it, just drive alongside and follow him while I'm reloading, and then finally finish him off. But the more astute of you will have noticed by looking at the team scores that our team is, well, they're crumbling basically, and I just suddenly get just a rush of blood to the brain. It's like I'm a bull and I've seen red. I just decide, right, if I'm gonna die in this game, I'm gonna go out with glory. So I see this Lux, and I decide to charge him. So I come around the corner, stop, go round, fire, take him out, 36 damage, and then the enemy team starts capping, but I can't go back to cap, reset the cap, because that OY was there. He's not there anymore, but if I had have gone back to try and reset the cap at that point, that OY would have been able to put a shot into me. And then this M6 comes around and think, well, that's it, I'm not going to be able to do anything else. But luckily he gets tracked by his own artillery, I'd like to point out, which allows me to get my turret rotated and to put a shot into him to finish him off. So now I go back to try and reset the cap, and it's just a downhill battle. I mean, in hindsight I probably should have gone to the right of this mound, but in all of my wisdom I decided to go left. So yeah, as I start to journey off to try and reset the cap, all of a sudden, bang, there you go, Jackson is behind me. So I decide, well, I'm not going to make it, I've got to face the Jackson, turn around, try and fire the shot, and the gun lets me down, and I get ended by the Jackson. So, as you saw in this replay, the M6 does have good manoeuvrability, and coupled alongside the 90mm gun, it is able to do some work. I mean, as you can see from our damage log at the top, we did do 1,276 damage in that game, which is it's fairly decent. It's not brilliant, it's not bad, but it just demonstrates that when you want to, you can just charge enemies with this tank, and you can pull off certain engagements. Although that engagement with the M6, I must thank the enemy artillery. They did do me a favour by tracking that M7. Without them doing that, I wouldn't have been able to kill him. But anyway, we're now going to move on to the next replay, in which I'm going to demonstrate the fact that the armour can work in certain situations. So I'll see you in a minute for that. So you join me in the second replay. It's another Tier 6 match, but this time it's on Muir of Anchor. So again, I've decided to cut the start of the battle out, as all I did was drive to this spot, take a speculative shot at the ELC, which buzzed us trying to spot us all, and I decide that I'm going to move up to that to the other hill, the mound, as nothing has popped around that corner, so I think it's safe. So if we proceed with the replay now, you'll see that on the mini-map, if I increase it for you, you can see that the mediums and the lights have completely broken our eastern flank. And, well, I don't really think many players went there to begin with, so I take it upon myself to go back and try and protect the camp. So I put the decent top speed to the M6 to work and head on over. I'm not going to place this tank on the hill because it's just too big, and I mean the camera rating's not very good because it's a heavy tank. So just to the left there, you can see that house. I am going to use that as my cover to try and protect myself as much as I can. So I come up to this house, and I suddenly spot the T-30. Well, I don't think I spot them, but the T-34-85 and the Skoda T-25 are spotted, and this is where the bounce fest begins. As you can see, I took 5 shots and I bounced all 5 of them, and then the damage starts coming in. So I lose sight of those tanks and then have to start readjusting, and I take another shot which bounces, and then I think that's the Leopard, the auto that starts firing at my front and just missing. And then I get my track knocked off, which does happen a lot with this tank because the tracks are just huge. And then I take 4 very significant shots, which basically seals my fate. Leopard has another go at me, but I'm finally put out of my misery by the Crusader. So this replay does show that the armour and the M6 can work. However, and I can't stress this enough, if you go any higher than Tier 6, it becomes less reliable as you go up the tiers. So with Tier 8's games, forget about it. Your armour, do not rely on it. It will not be reliable. Tier 7, it's certain vehicles you can bounce, other vehicles you can't. But then when you get to Tier 6, it gets to a point where you can start to trust your armour a little more. During this situation, I did trust it. However, I didn't really utilise the gun very much, so I got, well, as you can see from the top, I only hit one tank, which was that T-34-85. So that's a bad play by me. I really should have done a bit more to try and get more spots off. Not to mention I got flanked by that Skoda T40 just over there, which didn't help. So then when I turned my turret to engage him, I assume I got penetrated in the side of my turret by the Crusader. But yeah. To summarise, your armour can work, but do not rely on it. As you can see, we did take 20 hits, and we blocked 1,145 points of damage. So, yeah. But, again, as I've said throughout this replay, the armour is nothing special. And again, just don't rely on it. But I have saved what I consider the best replay till last, which is all about the 90mm gun. So, we'll move on to that replay now. Right, so here is the final replay I've got for you today, and it is, again, another Tier 6 game on, this time, Redshire. And I believe, if my memory serves me correctly, this is the first game that I played after I had unlocked the 90mm gun. So, at this moment in time, I was very much unaware of the capabilities of this gun. I didn't know how it was going to perform. I just jumped into this battle and just, well, as you can see, I headed straight towards the eastern flank along the zero line, where the heavy tanks tend to duke it out. So, I'm going to start the replay now. So, start heading over here thinking, oh, how's this gonna handle? What's the damage going to look like? I mean, obviously, the theory of the average damage of 240 is one thing, but and this M3 doesn't really. I mean, I was going to kill him even if I used the 76mm M1A1. So at first I just thought, there you go, free kill, free damage, whatever. And something surprising happens. No other tanks, not even the light tanks, tank destroyers, mediums, come down here, and the heavies don't even come here. So now I can move up, and I'm able to take a shot at this Su-85, and bang, there you go. As you can see, the accuracy on that flew straight and true, straight at the Su-85. And there's T-150 just sitting here in the open, so I start going to work this turret and really start putting this 90mm gun to work. And 262 damage in that T-150 is brilliant. So move up again and fire that T-150 for the final time, and then move back, take a shot from, I think it was the KV-1, or it may have been the Hellcat. It was one of those two that's sitting on the hill. And this is where the accuracy shows. You can see I aim, I fire, and I hit that KV-1. And that's... this is when I realised this gun was going to be just miles better than the 76mm that I'd been playing with previously. Just ignore that shot I fired against the Skoda T50. No, kidding aside, that's just RNG showing. But anyway, he gets taken out, so that's the threat to my flank secure. So I move up onto this hill to use the gun depression of this tank, which is good, which allows me to utilise positions such as this to fire up onto the hill. So let's go to T25, sorry, comes up and I put a shot into him, and then move back, and I can still fire at him from here. However, I try and take a shot at the Hellcat, and I assume that went over him. It wasn't the best aimed, but anyway. But this shot here, there, that wasn't a big target, yet the accuracy of this gun prevailed, and that just sealed it. I just suddenly realised that this gun was going to be spectacularly good, which it has. In most of the games I've played so far, this gun has performed admirably. It has done everything I've asked it to do. So, yeah, it's by far the best gun in this tank, and it is worth the 14,000 experience that you have to grind to get it. And yeah, this replay, I hope it did show that just the capabilities of this gun, that the accuracy is good, the rate of fire is okay. I mean, 7.89 rate of fire it's good enough for tier 6. It is good enough. And yeah, it's just I think this tank lives and dies by the 90mm gun, and it really is, in my opinion, a one-trick pony because of it. I mean, I did demonstrate in the last replay that the armour is okay, but it's nothing spectacular. It's not going to win any prizes. It's barely adequate for tier 6, and well, it's become evident that all the replays I showed you were tier 6 games where I was top tier, and that is because all of the other games that I played, whether they were tier 7 or tier 8, I couldn't get this tank to perform. The penetration on the gun just isn't good enough for tier 8, definitely. In tier 7 it's adequate. But that's just the way the cookie crumbles, really. I mean, I may have got unlucky with the tanks that I faced, but at the end of the day, heavy tanks are traditionally about the armour and being able to weather the storm and retaliate with high caliber guns. Yet this M6 has one of those two features. It has the gun, but it doesn't have the armour. And due to that, I'm probably going to sell this tank when I unlock the T29. And that is because so far I have not enjoyed it at all. But as usual, your mileage may vary. Some of you may have amazing games in this tank and may be able to get it to perform to the way you want it to, but I just haven't. I may do later on down the line, after I release this video. I may turn around and go, "Oh, Matt, you were speaking a load of shit. It's actually a really, really good tank." But from what I've experienced so far, I just don't like it. I just can't get into it. But anyway, that has been my review of the M6 heavy tank. If you did enjoy this or found it helpful, please do consider liking this video. If there's any comments you'd like to make on this, do you feel the same way about the M6? Do you disagree with me? If there are any suggestions you have on how I could play this tank better, then please do leave them in the comments below. And if you want to see more reviews or generally more World of Tanks content, then please do subscribe to my channel, as now that I finished uni I will be bringing out a lot more content. So thank you guys for watching again, and I'll see you again next time.